Greetings and welcome to CE Institute. My name is Selena Belisle and I am the founder and one of the board-approved CE providers here teaching CE hour classes for the Florida Board of Massage, Florida Board of Nursing, and Florida Board of Cosmetology licensees, as well as the National Board for Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork, NCBTMB. And in 2023, part of our training this year was to provide extra information about sanitation, germs, how to improve your workspace quality and reduce your risks during airborne viral transmission periods and so forth. We are completing and going through the COVID-19 pandemic right now, and we have this new flu season that's really bad in 2023. So we thought it would be important to share how you might improve your air quality in your massage and bodywork treatment room space to create a healthier environment for you to work in. Now, this class, what I'm going to share in this training right here, is part of a larger class. We have a 5 CE hour germs and sanitation training for massage therapists and body workers here at the school. So if you hear me during this training referencing other parts of the training, it's because I'm sharing this unit on YouTube and it's extracted from part of a larger class. If you want to see this class in full or learn more, you can always visit us at our school website. It's CE as in continuing education, ceinstitute.com. And there you can find lots of training. It's available to you instantly after you register for a course. And the home study is 24/7 accessible until your course access expires. This training that we're providing here from this school is from work that we did and research to write this article called Air Quality in the Massage Session Room: 3 Key Factors in Reducing the Risk of COVID-19 Acquisition and Transmission. So we addressed the air quality of a massage establishment and workspace back in 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we decided to create some training and a class teaching all of the great information we found in how to improve your air quality at work. Now, if you'd like to review this article in full, you can. It's published at Massage Magazine. You go to their website, massagemag.com, and you can either put in this title or my name, Selena, Selena, in the search bar at massagemag.com, and you'll be able to find this article and review it in greater detail if you wish. Air quality emerged as an important safety component during the COVID-19 pandemic. I have to say, many massage therapists never really give a lot of attention to the air quality of their workspace. Some massage therapists are really good at keeping a healthy workspace, but others, specifically the older generations, maybe like myself, we're more used to being discriminated against, where landlords won't rent to us because we're going to provide massage, and massage is taboo. And so some of our first thoughts are where are we going to get space? Where can we get zoning? Where can we get licensed regulation against or within a town or city that won't prohibit us or overregulate us? So sometimes air quality is a measure that's kind of put on the back burner or not thought of at all, because there are so many other things that we regularly have to think about to practice massage or body work. Air quality is really important for your workspace. I don't know if any of you have heard of sick building syndrome, but they list the #1 reason or cause of sick building syndrome due to inadequate ventilation. Okay, that's in addition to our recent COVID-19 pandemic, where if you are working in contaminated airspace, you could be contracting, acquiring, or transmitting COVID-19. So it's really important, especially during a respiratory pandemic or flu or cold outbreak, some type of infectious airborne outbreak, that we pay attention to the quality of our airspace in our treatment rooms. Now, while there are many other causes for sick building syndrome beyond air quality, we're going to focus this training right now on improving your air quality if you are working still during the COVID-19 pandemic, which hopefully will end one day if it hasn't already by the time you watch this training. You should be applying improved air quality practices to your business whenever possible. It's interesting. When I was trying to open up one of the locations for my Massage Works Inc. Business, which I had multiple locations for, I applied, I believe it was in 2003 or 2004 in Quincy, Massachusetts. And the inspector told me I needed to clean the air vents in the office. And it was really interesting. They took air quality as something to be seriously considered, and he denied my inspection until the air vents were clean and dust-free. Now, I had rented the space from a landlord, and I expected him to provide it to me in clean and usable condition, and I wasn't really looking at the air vents, but that's about 20 years ago now, and I'll never forget it. In order to have a clean, usable workspace that should be in a manner where it's not going to make you sick, you want to make sure that you're looking at air quality measures and practicing good ventilation and filtration techniques to keep yourselves clean and safe at work. If you're working during any type of pandemic or epidemic, especially if it's an airborne infectious situations such as COVID-19 or flus and so forth, you should be following any type of guidelines that are provided to help prevent the transmission of the disease, and also make sure that you're utilizing protective personal equipment such as masks and frequent sanitation measures to limit your risk of transmission of contagions. I want to give you an example of where we had bad information about an airborne illness, and that is recently with COVID-19. Originally, it was thought that COVID only spread through respiratory droplets, and there was some mixed information and disagreement and debate whether or not COVID was actually aerosoled. Of course it was aerosoled. But it wasn't until July 2020 before the EPA made an announcement. After accumulating scientific evidence, they said that COVID-19 can remain airborne for longer times and travel further distances than originally thought. So when I saw people get into elevators and remove their masks because no one else was in the elevator with them, I was thinking, why are you doing that? Because airborne illness, it doesn't necessarily have to be person-to-person transmission. That contagion, or in this case, COVID-19, the virus that causes COVID-19, can remain suspended airborne in the air. So just because you're in a workspace or isolated by yourself, if someone else was in that same workspace, you have to address the air quality, because sometimes contagions can be airborne and they're invisible. They're microscopic. You cannot see them. And that's why it's really important to address your air quality at your workspace whenever possible. Using COVID-19 as an example, the CDC acknowledged on October 5th, 2020, that some people were being infected even when they maintained 6 feet of social distancing. And the reason hypothesized for those infections were that there was inadequate ventilation and the air was actually infected. So even when you're maintaining social distancing, when you're in an airborne virus, especially when it's aerosoled, it's really important to try and treat the air, purify the air, ventilate your workspace, to avoid acquisition and transmission of airborne virus. To quote directly from the CDC's October 2020 statement, they wrote, "Some infections can be spread by exposure to virus that can linger in the air for minutes to hours. These viruses may be able to infect people who are further than 6 feet away from the person who is infected, or after an infected person has left the workspace." So this makes managing the air quality of your workspace extremely important, especially when working in some type of airborne epidemic or pandemic. So I want you to think for a moment about the air quality in your session room. Have you ever addressed this? Do you have air purifiers, HEPA filters? When's the last time you've changed the filter in an HVAC unit? What are you doing to address the air quality in your treatment room? What's concerning in the massage industry is that most massage therapists are working in very small treatment spaces. Sometimes the room might be only 7 or 8 feet wide by maybe 10 or 11 feet deep. So the square footage of these rooms is really small. And if you're in a place like where I was in New England for about 20 years, a lot of the commercial space is converted old Victorian buildings. And the only ventilation for the treatment room space is a window. And you're not opening your window in December or January in a snowstorm in New England. So we're going to provide you some additional air quality suggestions to improve your workspace, especially when you're working in a small and compacted environment. We'll also give you some suggestions of how you might change your workspace, especially when there's a threat of some type of airborne virus. When we're under threat, there's an infectious outbreak of something that is a harmful contagion. The EPA recommends increasing ventilation with outdoor air and air filtration as a part of a larger strategy that includes social distancing, wearing cloth face coverings or facial masks, and surface cleaning and disinfecting, hand washing, and other precautions to help protect yourself from airborne contaminants. There are essentially 3 key factors in addressing air quality in your massage therapy treatment room. Those 3 factors include, number 1, we want you to increase the amount of air ventilation exchange around your massage service. This includes things like opening doors and windows. The second out of these 3 key factors is we want you to purify the air using different filtration devices, air purifiers, HEPA filters, and more. And the third key factor to improving your air quality as a massage therapist is to simply not exchange airway to airway contact with your client and avoid this as much as possible. So that might mean changing your service to provide it in pronated position and to not sit directly over a client's head and perform facial massage when air quality and transmission of virus via respiratory backwash and droplets and so forth are a concern during some type of infectious outbreak. To better define the first key factor of air ventilation, let me give you some examples and things that you can do at work to improve air ventilation. First of all, if you can practice outdoors, great. That would be the best air ventilation of all, okay? When you are confined between 4 walls, That means the virus is confined in there with you. And airborne contaminants are confined within those four walls with you. So when you're practicing outside, any type of contaminant or virus that's aerosoled or airborne, that gets dispersed. And you do need a significant quantity or a specific amount of virus in order to acquire disease. Okay, so when you're improving your air ventilation, you're decreasing the amount of viral exposure. Okay, and that is one way you can help protect yourself from airborne infectious agents. Examples of where you can practice your massage outdoors might include a cabana, a rooftop, or a balcony. All of these might be better options to massage your client in these outdoor spaces beyond a physical four-wall treatment room. Now, if you're watching this class in Seattle, Washington, and it's snowing in January, please don't subject your client to an outdoor massage in unreasonable temperatures. You also want to protect the client's privacy. So ensure when you are working outdoors that you are keeping the total picture in mind beyond the air quality itself. You should also consider direct sunlight when you're working outdoors. You don't want the client to be burned, especially when you're applying oil to the skin, and especially if you're using citrus essential oils in your massage medium, because that can increase the chance of skin burns. So make sure that your massage session outdoors is protected from direct sunlight to avoid further injury. Temperature and sunlight regulation is probably some of the hardest factors, as well as privacy measures when working outdoors. If it's really hot out, maybe you're trying to practice outdoor massage at a cabana in Miami in August, which would be physically brutal with those temperatures. I know, I've lived there. You would want to use things like outdoor fans to attempt to cool yourself and keep your client comfortable as well. And you would simply position the fans to blow any exhaled air away from you and your client so that you're not blowing somebody's respiratory backwash directly onto you. If practicing massage outdoors is not an option, then if you're working indoors, try and find the treatment room that has the best ventilation. It's the largest space with ventilation. In your establishment, you might have rooms that are ventilated and some that have no ventilation. Look around, try and decide which room would provide you the best air ventilation to provide you the best air quality. Believe it or not, your massage establishment reception area might be the largest room available to you in your massage practice. And practicing in your reception area would not be unheard of in something like a COVID-19 pandemic. There might be less people at the office and only one client there at a time. And if that's the situation, I would have no problem putting my massage table out in the reception area as long as it's private and to the largest room available to me. And then I would explain to the client, due to COVID, we're trying to work in the largest workspaces possible to improve our air quality and reduce the risk of transmission and so forth. So that's why we're going to do the massage out here today. And always ask your client, are you comfortable with that? Usually most clients are in an agreement to employ measures that can improve their chance of not becoming ill. In addition to trying to find spaces that already have good ventilation, you should open the doors and windows to your treatment space when it's appropriate to do so. Obviously, when it's not too hot and you require air conditioning, or when it's not too cold and you require heat. The EPA does write and state ensuring proper ventilation with outside air can help reduce the concentration of airborne contaminants, including viruses, indoors. So your goal is to provide treatment space that has good air ventilation and to continue that ventilation with open spaces and new air. When you do that, the viral load of any contaminants in the air in your workspace should be lowered with ventilation. If you have a fan in your bathroom, just leave it running. Air is constantly flowing from one corner of your building to another. So there's no harm in leaving that bathroom fan running all day while you're there, with the exception of your electricity bill. So if you're concerned about those types of costs, that's a business decision that you need to make. But when there's a viral airborne pandemic, the cost might be minimized by the healthcare improvement of trying to increase your air ventilation. Also, if you can open any vents to outdoor air, that includes on your air conditioner, there's usually a vent that you can open for outdoor air on the other side of the air conditioner. Open all of those vents and ensure that you're getting the greatest amount of ventilation possible to your workspace. If a window or door in your treatment room can be safely and securely opened while your massage is going on, open it, okay? What you're trying to do is dilute the air. I have pepper here in this glass, okay? It's in the bottom of the glass. It's really concentrated, and the pepper is simply piled onto itself. Let's pretend that pepper is virus, okay? So look at that concentrated amount of virus in one small compacted space. When we say we want to increase air ventilation, reduce the concentration of contaminants that are airborne, and dilute the air, it's kind of like trying to dilute the pepper in this glass. Let's pretend that pepper is virus. When you take water, and let's pretend our water is air here. I know we have a lot of pretending, but air is invincible, so I've got to show you something. When you take this water and pour it into the pepper, it becomes diluted, right? And now there's a less concentration of virus in one small compacted space. You need a certain amount of virus to be exposed to acquire a disease. You have some immunity, you will fight, some amount of virus. But when the virus is dispersed, and there's less virus in the air and stuff like that. Hopefully, it's such a minimal amount that you can avoid acquisition because your exposure is less. That's what we're trying to achieve when we are improving and increasing our air ventilation in the treatment room. You should also be positioning your massage table in your treatment room based on how you can improve your air ventilation when there's a respiratory concern. Okay, so we need to kind of stop with the feng shui and this looks best. It's more about how can I safely practice. And in this circumstance here, I showed a massage table and I put the head of the massage table close to the door and window. We'll want to open these up. Let's say that door goes out to a hallway and the windows to outdoors. You might not be able to open the window to outdoors when it's unreasonably hot or cold, but you might be able to open that door for the hallway. If you are going to have some ventilation in your treatment space with a fan, you want to put the fan behind the client's airway. And in this case, if you're opening both the window and door, put it to the left-hand side of the table. You want that fan to blow across the client's airway and continue carrying that air that's exhaled from your client out the window and door, okay? You can put the fan a little bit more directly behind the client or to the left of the client's head, depending on if you're only blowing to the window or door, or at a diagonal if you're, blowing the air from the fan to both openings to the treatment room. The key is to try and reduce the amount of contaminants in the air by increasing air ventilation, and that will reduce the concentration of contaminants in your treatment room. In addition to placing fans in your treatment room and opening doors and windows to increase air ventilation, think about how the air might blow into your treatment room, especially if there's air conditioning or heating, forced hot air entering your treatment room. How you can get the client's exhaled air, their head or the top of the table, in a space where you can blow anything they exhale away from you during your massage. The one thing that you wouldn't want to do is place the client's table in a position where any air that's blowing past the client is actually just pushing their exhaled contaminants into the treatment room, therefore increasing the amount of concentrated virus in the treatment room. I put a little example of the massage table up top here, the same thing you saw in the last slide. And I put the fan in front of the table between the client and the door and window. This would be a horrible example. That's not where you want your fan, especially if it's blowing towards your client. You might use your fan in front of the client if you're trying to suction away the air. However, I think it's more effective placing the fan behind the client and trying to blow their exhaled air through open doors and windows and away from you. Now let's review the second key factor of improving your air quality by filtering the air in your massage establishment treatment room space. First of all, you should make sure that any existing air filters in your office are frequently cleaned and the filters are changed often. You're really not achieving filtration if your air filter has the same dirty filter in it. And also, if the vents are dirty, that's another area where bacteria and virus and other harmful pathogens can accumulate, and you might just be spreading them amongst your treatment space through the air filter when it's blowing them out. So make sure that your air filter is clean. It does need to be cleaned, and if there's filters in it, they usually need to be changed as well. Sometimes those filters are washable, most are not. Check with the product manufacturer to learn the filtration requirements, such as changing your filter, how frequently, or how you might clean it. During COVID-19, the EPA was recommending upgrading air filters to the highest compatible filtration available for your device. So I know when I'm shopping for air filters, there's a huge range of quality for my HVAC unit. I can buy filters for as little as a few dollars, and some of the filters can be $30 plus. There is a difference. Sometimes the filters state that they can block virus and bacteria and capture, pet dander and so forth. Look for those differences. And when there's a viral contagion, some type of pandemic outbreak, you want to use the highest grade filter with the greatest amount of filtration possible. Also, during something like the COVID-19 pandemic, you want to keep things like your HVAC unit running at all times, even if it's just the fan. That will help filter the air. And when you have new filters that are not dirty or filthy, they'll hopefully be doing their job in filtering the air of bacteria, virus, and other harmful pathogens. You want to move any materials or debris away from air vents and fans for the best possible air exchange. And you might think that that's common sense, but it not necessarily is. Sometimes there's these wall units that are HVAC units. They're usually underneath a window, and they're using the outdoor air. They can either reprocess the indoor air or filtrate and ventilate from outdoor air and blow hot or cold air into your office. Do you know how many times I've seen people use those units as plant holders, and magazine racks. So there's all types of physical debris that are often placed on air vents. Make sure these are free and clear of debris, including your office supplies, to ensure the best possible filtration. HEPA filters are some of the best air filtration devices you can acquire for your workspace. In fact, they were recommended by OSHA during COVID-19. HEPA stands for High Efficiency Particulate Air Filter, and these are designed to filtrate your air to help keep you safe and remove harmful pathogens from the air. Your HEPA filter is used to help purify the air of your workspace. Now keep in mind, it will not create sterile air. There will still be pathogens and bacteria and virus in the air. It will never eliminate all pathogens and virus and so forth, but it will certainly help, and it's better than not having one. There are other air filters that are called UVC, or ultraviolet light filters. Okay, and these UVC systems can sometimes be found in HVAC installation options as well. I've always been fascinated by these UVC lights and filters, air filters, because I'm a licensed nail technician. Okay. And one of the things that we use to sanitize our nail implements and tools is ultraviolet light. And we put them in these nail sanitizer boxes with the ultraviolet light, and it's germicidal. It helps destroy the germs that are on our tools and implements. So I think it's kind of a brilliant use of UVC light to use these in air filters to pass the air beyond the UVC light, which hopefully has a germicidal action. Okay, and while we don't have any peer-reviewed research that's of substantial quality to show that this UVC germicidal light in air filters is hopefully really improving the quality of air, what we do have is from Columbia University Irving Medical Center, which is a pretty prestigious establishment. And they published this on June 24, 2020. They wrote more than 99.9% of seasonal coronaviruses present in airborne droplets were killed when exposed to a particular wavelength of ultraviolet light that is safe to us as humans, okay? Now, I don't know if that ultraviolet light is the same as what's used in the UVC light filters that you can buy at Walmart and on Amazon and stuff. But it was interesting. They had this chart and it showed, after 1 minute, a certain percentage was killed. I think it might be like an hour of filtration, then 99.9% of coronavirus is destroyed. And it's very hopeful that we have some of our most prestigious universities, such as Columbia University, not only researching this, but publishing it. I will say when using UVC light, one of the things that I've seen in the research is that sometimes it can be irritating. It's almost like an ozone that's created in the air, and that can be irritating to the throat and to asthmatics and so forth. I always use these UVC air filters for like 10 years now in my building in downtown Miami. My school does not have windows in some of the classrooms, and in some of the classrooms the windows are sealed. So I've always been concerned about our air quality. And so I put these UVC germicidal air filters in our classrooms, but even myself, my throat gets a little bit sore at the end of the day. And I always wondered, is it because I'm talking all day, or is it because of the germicidal UVC, or is it both? Is it with all the ozone? And I think that ozone can be slightly irritating to the throat. So sometimes it's a trade-off. Do you want a slight irritant, or do you want to try and make your workspace safer when you're under threat of an airborne virus? In my case, I just want to make the space a little bit safer and safer to me is killing virus that is a super spreader and a threat to life, such as COVID-19. I think there's a lot of research that still needs to be done and completed about UVC germicidal light with air filtration devices. If you're going to use these, make sure you do research about the product you're acquiring. Make sure it's recommended for indoor closed space use. Small space use would be even better. And keep up with the research because it's kind of questionable whether or not this ozone in UVC could be harmful to us. I don't think it's researched enough. And while I'm using UVC germicidal air filtration devices and have been using them for a decade now, I want to see more research. I use them cautiously. I try not to be exposed to them more than a couple days a week. And that's my personal use of them. What you choose to do in your business will be your own choice. I think this is a great choice, but I don't have a lot of information to make that recommendation. I want you to research it to the best of your ability and keep up with the latest research to ensure you're not acquiring something that's harmful and that this is helpful. I think it could be extremely helpful, but with more research, we'll certainly know. There are companies that specialize in air quality, and they're pretty booked right now due to the COVID-19 pandemic that just passed us, okay? There's something known as the acronym ASHRAE, and they're the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers. And you can contact an organization like this or even look at their website, which has a lot of free resources on it. There you can get more recommendations, probably updated recommendations about how to improve your air filtration at your workspace. Our third recommendation to improve your air quality is to simply breathe free and clear air. That's not breathing directly into your client's respiratory backwash and making sure your client is not breathing in yours. You want to avoid the client's airway as much as possible, especially when working in confined workspaces. If air quality is a concern due to respiratory contaminants, you should always try and practice on your client in the pronated position to avoid airway to airway contact. You want to avoid standing at the top of the table where you're closest to the client's airway. It's fairly easy and somewhat normal to massage the client's neck and arms solely from the pronated position. It's even easier to massage the client's hands and palms in the pronated position because the palm will be facing you on the top of the table. You can also scoop underneath the arms to get the anterior arm in the pronated position, and you can also hang the client's arms off from the side of the table if you need to reach other angles of the client's arms. This is definitely better than having the client lie supine to work on the anterior arms because then you would be having a more direct airway to airway connection. We've been telling our students if you need to keep your massage practice going during something like a COVID pandemic, try and provide services that can be in the pronated position, such as body scrubs, and then put them in the shower where they can shower by themselves. Anything where you can avoid the client's airway is what we recommend to improve your own workspace air quality. And if your client refuses to be in the pronated position, they want to lie face up, you can of course offer things such as foot reflexology and sit at the end of the table, which will keep you furthest from the client's airway. Here's some information about how you can reduce your exposure and risks during infectious respiratory outbreaks. Obviously, when everyone's wearing facial masks during respiratory outbreaks, that will increase your protection for all. If you work in an establishment where there's multiple therapists working at the same time, try and schedule yourself on different days or off hours when there's a lesser number of people at the office. This is another way to help improve your air quality simply by adjusting your scheduling. You'll want to schedule yourself when there's the least amount of people in the office. Okay, so try and schedule times when you might be the only one there. Reducing the amount of people who are breathing into the open air will also reduce the amount of contaminant that's in the air. So scheduling yourself when you might be the only one there is best practices. If you're in rental space as an establishment owner, you might want to contact your landlord and ask them how they've addressed air quality concerns and standards. I noticed in our building where our school is in downtown Miami, they upgraded our HVAC ventilation system, and they also put these stickers over the elevator buttons and on the door handles of the entrance of our building. They were supposed to be stickers that prevented bacteria from living and virus from living on the sticker from these high contact surfaces. So there's lots of things that you can do within your building and workspace to protect yourself, both with air quality and beyond. Now, if you are in a condominium, maybe work with your condominium association. If you're simply an employee working for an employer, you might want to ask them or bring it to their attention. Listen, our air quality needs to be addressed. There's contaminants in the air. It's airborne. This isn't just person-to-person contact. There could be viral contaminants in the air 20 minutes after the clients leave if they were asymptomatic and infected. And hopefully, once your employer and landlord or condominium association are properly educated about the risks, they can seek alternatives and solutions on how to improve everyone's safety. Now, if you're unable to employ any of the tactics that we've provided you to improve your air quality, and this is a concern for you at work, especially if there's some type of respiratory infectious outbreak, see if you can contact some of your commercial neighbors to see if you can swap space or barter or do anything that you can improve the quality of your workspace to protect yourself and your clients. Just keep in mind, if you are going to work in someone else's space and you have an establishment license, your license and your malpractice insurance might not be covered if you're working in a space that's not legal. Okay, so there were a lot of exceptions that were made during the COVID-19 pandemic to keep people safe. One of the requirements that happen in Florida state is our massage therapists usually have to take in-person, hands-on CE classes, and the state waived that requirement. They allowed practitioners to take their CE hours from home in computer-based training. So if you are going to try to temporarily change your workspace because your air quality is of concern or for any reason, just check with your own licensing board if you are practicing as a licensed professional to ensure that you are covered and properly practicing. We hope you found some of these recommendations to improve your air quality in your workspace helpful. While you can never eliminate all risks of respiratory disease when you are in direct contact with others, some of these practices should help improve your safety and reduce your risks. This is where we're going to end our training for how to improve your air quality, and we provided you some additional tips on how to make your practice a little bit safer during airborne viral outbreaks. We hope that you found a detail or two here in this training that you'll be able to use in your own practice to make yourself and others safer. If you'd like to learn more, we have lots of training available at our school. It's ceinstitute.com. And you can also get on our social media. We have this YouTube station, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We regularly post there when we have new published articles, new free training videos such as this one. And of course, we have our in-person live webinar and pre-recorded home study classes available to you on our website as well. So until we see you in another training, we hope you're safe.